Bonjour, everyone. Hi. Welcome to Star Nations Radio Network on Be Live TV, Facebook live stream. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show, Star Nations Communications from Home. It is Tuesday night, November 21st. I had to stop and think for a moment. Couldn't remember the date. I've been dealing with it all day long, and all of a sudden, it just kind of goes out of your head. So welcome, everybody. Tonight's show is just you and me. We're going to be talking a little bit about Thanksgiving and Native American Awareness Month. But most of all, we're going to be talking about gratitude, because the name of the show tonight is The Attitude of Gratitude. And there's good, hi, Rochelle. There's good reason to have gratitude. And sometimes I know it's not the easiest sometimes to have. And that's when we need to take ourselves aside and give ourselves a little attitude adjustment. And I tell you what, I have done that with myself many a time, to remind myself of a positive attitude and to know that what I'm grateful for, right? All right, so what we're going to start out with tonight is something that we normally do. You guys are getting the hang of this, right? We welcome you to the show, and then we ask you to do a little something for us, if you wouldn't mind, to like the show and to share the show, because you know what happens is that people who meant to watch the show, they get busy. Especially, around this time of the evening, because some people are just getting their little ones into bed, or, they're just getting home from work if they're, they work late, kind of thing. And when we share it, it's a little reminder to them that, oh yeah, I was going to watch that show. So if you wouldn't mind doing that for me, I would appreciate it. I am as well. I am going to save it, share it. I'm going to share it, save it later too. All right. So I'm going to love it, and I am going to share it. And I'm sharing mine to my timeline. My timeline, I share so much with the public from my timeline because of all the kind of work that I do, right? And so I'm going to share it to my timeline. And I'm going to say, we're live streaming, and then join us. And then I'm posting. There it goes. Technology is always grand, especially when it works, right? Great. All right. Thank you, ladies. Hello, Jocelyn. Jocelyn said she shared. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Rochelle, she shared. Thank you. And of course, April. Thank you, April. And thank you for being here, for sharing. And thank you to those who will be watching the recorded video after we're completely done. It always amazes me how Facebook does this. We end the show in like seconds after the show is done. It's recorded. I don't know how they render it so quickly, but they do. And then, what I do for almost all of the shows is that I go in and I save the video, the recorded video, and then I upload it to our YouTube channel. And so that is our current archive for Star Nations Radio Network shows. And so if you ever want to go back and you want to look at one other show or listen to another show, and you can't find it in all of the videos that we're doing from this page, from the Star Nations fan page, you can always go look us up on YouTube. Look up Star Nations Organization LLC, and you'll see all the videos there. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little something here so that those people who might not know, you're joining the Star Nations Communications from Home show, and I'm your host tonight, and you can call me Neshi Lokotz. Hi, Connie. Connie's in the house too. Good to see you, Connie. Thank you for coming. All right. So tonight, what I'd like to do is start off with a little something about Thanksgiving, because for whatever reason, whatever reason, and there's a lot of them, that Thanksgiving always seems to be connected to and associated with Native Americans, right? And since I'm Native American, and some people might not know that, but I am a tribal member of the Potawatomi Nation, which means that I'm an enrolled member of that nation, and I can prove my lineage. And I do that because that is actually a U.S. governmental thing that we have to do to prove that we have the lineage to belong to a certain nation for us to be enrolled. So basically, who are your parents? Who are your grandparents? And I can trace my lineage back to an original Alati number. My great-great-grandfather, I think maybe it's 4 greats, Potawatomi Nation, when they were put on the reservation in Mietta, Kansas. And his original Alati number, 435, I can trace my lineage back to that Misho, that grandfather. And so that makes me a tribal member. And so a lot of times I will get questions about Thanksgiving. And normally, it is about, how do you guys feel about that? Do you guys celebrate Thanksgiving? Is another one. And so I thought, well, I used to do a lot of brown bag lunch kind of talks when I worked for the state of Wisconsin, right around this time of year. And I've done talks in universities and grade schools and middle schools and about Native Americans and Thanksgiving. So I thought I'd do just a little bit for you tonight. I hit the high spot, so to speak. For the question is, do you celebrate Thanksgiving? Not in the sense that is what somebody would call a traditional Thanksgiving here in the United States. Here in Wisconsin, Thanksgiving also falls during the deer gun hunt season. And I come from a hunting family. The deer is not just a staple. It is it's life for us. All right. Growing up, I ate very little beef, hardly any beef, because we always had deer meat. And so the deer and we have a symbiotic kind of relationship, right? And we honor the cycle of life, and we give thanks. We're grateful for the deer giving its life essence for us to be able to live, and so that they live through us at that point. So that is the reason why we usually get together around Thanksgiving, and we do have meals together. And because we live in the United States, we also see. I love watching the Macy Thanksgiving Day Parade. It's one of my favorite things on Turkey Day morning. And so, yes, we used to have turkey. We had turkey, but it was more of a smorgasbord. It was venison and all the things that would go with a venison meal, wild rice, and but I'm also Yaqui. My dad was Yaqui, and so we would also have enchiladas. And refried beans, and and that sort. So it was kind of like a smorgasbord of all of the foods that we just liked, and we hung out together. And I suppose that is some form of Thanksgiving, right? That is some form. Now I have to go back a little bit, because one of the reason why I get asked about if we celebrate Thanksgiving from a Native American point of view, and I want to say that I don't speak for every Native American. Can't do that because we're also very different from nation to nation, and from clan to clan, and even within our own families, there's opinions and differences. And so I can only give you my perspective. Okay. And so here is my perspective is, there is history between the United States government and Native Americans. And it has never really been a very friendly relationship. It's been a wary relationship, and from a governmental point of view. So, so here we have Thanksgiving in the United States, and there is a narrative, a story, the story that's told about Thanksgiving in many schools all across the United States is that Thanksgiving was a meal between the Native Americans and the Pilgrims. And they were celebrating the harvest, the first harvest that they had together. And it was a friendship meal. And the kids get to make their Native American headdresses, out of paper. They sit on the floor to eat their meal that, is usually provided at the school. The narrative, the story. Hey, Lady Bird, Catherine's in the house too. Good to see you, Catherine, Lady Bird. Thank you for coming, being here with us. And so the narrative, that story, is a nice story. It really is, but it's not the truth. It's not the real story. The real story is of course, much, much deeper than that. The real story is, yes, there was a meal. There was a meal between the Pilgrims and Native Americans. I'm trying to remember the name of the Native the tribe. It starts with a P. It's Patuxet, Patuxet, I think. Anyway, the reason why not many people know how to pronounce that is because what happened was that the Europeans, when they landed, they basically saw this open land that didn't belong to anybody, right? And the native people that they did find, which was this particular tribe, they basically captured many people to take them back to England as slaves, and they ended up with giving them measles. I think it was measles. It was chickenpox. That's right, chickenpox. And so those who escaped, and the natives who escaped, the indigenous people, most of them ended up dying anyway from the disease. And there was one young man who survived, and that was Squanto. And so many people know who Squanto is because that is the story that he came and he helped to show the Pilgrims how to plant the indigenous food so that they could grow their own food, right? So then they did have a meal from those early plantings, and it was a meal of friendship. So that part, there's some truth to that, but you also have to know the beginning part of it. All right. So. And that was really early. That was like in 1614 or 1616 or something like that. Now, what happened after that, after the first Pilgrims or the first Europeans came, they left. They couldn't survive. And those that did, they left. And then some more people came. And those are the ones that most people know about. That's the Mayflower, right? Those Pilgrims. And the thing is that what happened is, there was a war, and between the Pequot and the settlers, and they say that it was one of the bloodiest wars between the indigenous people at that time, right? And what happened is that because the Native Americans, the Pequot, did not have muskets, they didn't have firepower. And so the Pequot were basically, what happened was their camp was surrounded, and 700 men, women, and children were killed. And so the Pequot Nation is a very, 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 very tiny, tiny nation. There are a few people who survived, and those are the ancestors that survived, so that the Pequot who are here today living in New England are their descendants. And so, if anything, we're grateful that those of our ancestors survived so that we could be here in modern day, right? That's something to be grateful for. Oh, and here's Rochelle. Rochelle says, I remember reading about Squanto in 6th grade and read it 3 times. It was really good. I know, that is a really good story, and they really do. The writers of that story really did a really good job in being very creative and taking something that was in the past, in the history, and turning it into something that was romanticized. Let's put it that way. It was romanticized. Okay. All right. So the Thanksgiving that occurred after the Pequots were massacred was that the early European people who were here, every time that they had a win, a victory against the Native American, in other words, a lot of more people were killed, is that they would have a Thanksgiving feast and they would give thanks, right? And so that is the Thanksgiving history. And I share this with you because we need to know the whole story. All right. We need to know the whole story so that we can see it when it starts to happen again. And we're saying, no, that's not going to happen. We're not going to repeat that history. We're going to try to do this more peacefully. We're going to coexist. We're going to be co-creative and build something positive together, right? That would be the best thing, I think. But that's the reason why I bring up the history, is so that we know the full story. And that way, when you as a non-native person hear something and you say, well, wait a minute, that's not quite how it went. All right. And I can give you I'll put a couple of resources in the comments after the show. So at some point you have something to point to and say, no, this is the real story. This is what really happened. We're not celebrating that in 2017. We're going to be celebrating something a little bit better than that, something much more positive. And that's kind of how Native American Heritage Month kind of comes into being in November, because those two stories are symbiotic. They're put together. They're interconnected. And so some of us were very happy that we had this federal recognition, because we're like 1.7% of the total U.S. population. So it's a very small amount, right? So to say that we have the month of November to help educate people, to help say, here we are in modern day. We're just not a piece of history in a museum. And this is what we are today. This is who we are. This is where we live. This is how our lives are in modern times, right? So that's good. I think that's fantastic. The flip side of that is that it's still their relationship to the U.S. government still is not all the greatest thing, and so in my two cents to put into that is that we need some integrity across the board, right? To be able to match our words and our behavior. And so and it builds trust. And so, Native American Month, it is, a sweet and sour thing. It really is. So I try to, I don't know, I'm a quadruple Sag. So, I tend to be pretty optimistic most of the time. And so I've been called Pollyanna. I tell people I choose to walk on the sunny side of the street, and I do. I try to find the blessing in whatever is going on. Sometimes it's easier than others. Other times, it's like, I'm just like the rest of you. It's like, I just want to say, you know what? Let's tell it just the way it is. And sorry if I hurt your feelings, but darn it, we got to tell that story. So I'm going to take a drink of coffee. I know, coffee at 7:00 at night. I don't know if that's a good thing. but I haven't had any today. So I know Tuesdays are really, really busy days. I have something for you that's a little bit of a gift, and I want you to listen to it. Now, we've played it before on Star Nation's radio network. We've played it before on several different shows. And it's going to sound familiar to you. And the reason why I'm playing this is because it's a recording that I am very grateful for. I'm very grateful to the man who said, yes, you can record it. And I'm very grateful to the place that it was recorded at and all the people that were there working on behalf of humanity. And so give it a listen. Okay, let's hope that it plays really well and that you can hear it.
Gangsters out there! Kokalas! Kiktato! Christians! Get up! Rosebud! Kiktapo! Oklahoma, we've been up for 3 hours. Kikta Nakish Ashapo. It's going to be a good day. I could sing a song all the way through. Get up! It's going to be a good day.
I am so grateful to Guy Delknife. That was his voice. That was the recording from November 2016. It was at Osheti Sakoi, and in North Dakota. It was during the Standing Rock movement to protect the Missouri River and water protectors. It was in the encampment of the Osheti Sakoi that every morning Guy would get up at 4:30 in the morning, and this is an elderly man, and he wasn't feeling well. And Dana and I had gone, and that's Dana's Hunka brother, and so our camp was within their campsite, and we would get up every morning to go to the sacred fire, and every morning he'd wake everybody up that way, and the reason why I am so grateful to him for allowing me to record that, and it goes on for quite a long time actually, is that during that time, people from all over the world went to this tiny little place in North Dakota to stand up for Grandmother Earth, Unchimaka, Kokmiskikan, to stand up for her and to try to protect her. People from all faiths, all races, all beliefs, and they lived in the same area. They coexisted together peacefully. And when Guy would get them up in the morning, he called them all, every one of them, to the sacred fire. And that there would be prayers in the morning, every morning. That's how the day started. And we started that together in prayer. So I played that for you tonight because that was in November, and it was leading up to, I think we were there at the beginning of the month. And so, leading up to the week of Thanksgiving. And as the nights progressed, as the days progressed in November 2016, it led up to November 20th, which was probably the most brutal evening that the water protectors went through. So many people got really hurt very, very badly by a militarized police force, right? Protecting the oil industry. So they actually had a gathering on, I don't remember if it was actually on Thanksgiving, but it was around that day. But they didn't call it Thanksgiving. They called it Gratitude Day. They were giving thank yous. It was a thank you dinner. In a Lakota language, Wopila dinner, thank you dinner. I mean, in Potawatomi, it'd be a miigwech, catchy miigwech dinner. And to sit down and share this dinner with hundreds of people were there. I think it was like 500 or 600 still at that time. And so they really, that movement changed a lot across the world. And even here in the United States, it had people looking at Thanksgiving Day a little bit differently, looking at it more of a place of gratitude than a place of, a more materialistic Thanksgiving, Yeah, it's nice to have all the food that you want to have to eat and all the traditional stuff, but do you really need all of that to say that you have this gratitude? And what are you grateful for? What's the intention for the meal, right? Because here in Star Nations, we talk a lot about intention, don't we? We certainly do. Now, April's saying something in the chat room. She's saying, reading Squanto's Journey and the Very First Americans tomorrow with my homeschoolers. Oh, good for you, April. Thank you for doing that. And now you know the full story, not just the fluffy narrative, but the full story. And I'm so glad that you're doing that because teachers have a way to be able, they have this vehicle to be able to share information with our future, right? Our future leaders. Here in my state, in Wisconsin, the Department of Public Instruction, DPI, many, many years ago, they worked with, it's called the Great Lakes Intertribal Council. And that is a council that takes, that the membership is, the leadership is the chair people, each of the 11 federally recognized tribes in Wisconsin. And they had input into a curriculum about Native Americans in the state of Wisconsin. And so, and we had, some of the people who did the input for that from the Native American side are teachers. They're educators, they're PhD holders, and so they really help pull together, I think, is a really comprehensive curriculum. Thing is that not many of the teachers know that it's even available for free here in the state. And so we try, it's been many years, so I'm hoping that it's been updated. I don't know. I'm not sure who had done the update, but it's still really good information. I'm glad that they did that. So I better get moving here because it's 7:29 already. That half-hour show goes so dang fast. We're going to go over a little bit so that we can cover the gratitude piece, okay? I want to show you something first. This is something that is I found on the internet, and this is the National Day of Mourning plaque. And this was put up in 1970. On every Thanksgiving at noon, there are Native Americans across the United States that go to this place at Coles Hill near Plymouth, or in Plymouth, and they have a vigil, they have a gathering, and of course they have speakers too. But really, it's about recognizing and remembering those ancestors who gave their life there, the Pequot Nation. So April, I don't know if you know that plaque exists, but there it is. It's on Coles Hill near Plymouth. Yeah. All right. So, and I also have a couple other things I want to show you. Let's see. We're going to talk about gratitude, because I think that if we can shift the narrative, if we can talk about what our intention is, not just for Thanksgiving, but for every day, is what are we grateful for? Science has proven that gratitude, because gratitude is a feeling, it's a feeling. And to feel gratitude is so very healthy for us. It helps our blood pressure to be lower, our stress level to be lower. We sleep better. Our relationships are better, not just to our significant other, but anybody that we have a relationship with, they're better when we have gratitude, when we're grateful, right? And so how do you get that feeling of gratitude? And really it is in saying thank you and being thankful. That's the action. That's the action. And they say that it's not just a platitude of thank you. It's not just a, hey, thanks, but it's a heartfelt thank you. It is when we do ceremony, when we're doing that opening prayer and we're calling in spirit, right, to help us, we're thankful for them to come. And we tell them so, especially at the very end when we're done with their ceremony and we're thanking everybody. And we make sure that we thank Spirit for being there to help us. And so we in the light workers world, those of us who live our lifestyle this way with Spirit, we know about being thankful, truly thankful, not just thanks kind of thing, it's kind of like asking somebody, how you doing? And as you're walking by them and you don't even stop to listen to what they say, or a lot of times they'll say, oh, I'm fine. And that kind of connection is so superficial, isn't it? So I found this quote: of all the attitudes we can acquire, surely the attitude of gratitude is the most important and by far the most life-changing. And that Zig Ziglar that's saying that. Zig Ziglar. That's pretty good. I like that one. Because we can change our attitude. We can. And how do you do that? Now, this is not something just light and fluffy that we're going through, because many of us know what it's like to be going through the dark night of the soul. We do. We can't be the kind of healers. We can't be the kind of medicine workers. We can't be have those kinds of gifts that work through us without us experiencing the dark night. Right. And so when you're going through the dark night, that's when it's the most difficult to be thankful. It's the most difficult to have that feeling of gratitude. It's difficult, but it's also the most important time. And I'm speaking from experience. It really is sitting down and being very intentional about it. What I used to do, but when I got into bed, saying prayers and that kind of thing, I would go through my list of gratitude. What am I grateful for? I'm so grateful for my home. It's a beautiful home, and I get to live in it. And be taken care of by my home. I am so grateful for my husband, Paul. He's such a good guy. He puts up with a lot from me, and he's still here. And so I'm grateful for him. He's my rock. He's the rudder, really. He's the rudder in this relationship. And I'm so grateful for him. And so every night I would go through my list of gratitude. And a lot of times it was just me in my head doing it. But when the times were bad, I literally would say them out loud. I would say it out loud. And, I could feel myself shifting, feeling a little bit better, feeling a lot lighter. By the time I was actually falling asleep or getting into bed to go to bed, I felt better. I did. I really did feel better. And then I realized, well, that's good at night because it helps me sleep. But I also started doing it in the morning. Yeah. Once my mom was all taken care of and I'd actually sit down to have my own breakfast, I would have my cup of coffee or tea and I would start the list that morning. What was I grateful for? And I would at least try to name 4 things that I was grateful for. And the actual feeling of it. And I'm not saying that it's simple. No, it's when we're at our worst feeling. It's the important time to do that. And sometimes we need friends. We need friends, somebody close to us to say, we got a lot to be grateful for, and start the list. Or say, have you done your gratitude today? I have to admit, there was times when Paul would say that to me and I'd say, no, I haven't. All right, I'll sit down and do it now. And then start off with not being very grateful sounding. And by the time I was done, I was very grateful. It's just moving through it and shifting that energy. Here's another one. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it, by William Arthur Ward. And I love this image for 2 reasons. Is that how magical unicorns are, right? And if you ever heard the interview that we did with Brandeline Johnson, she was talking about the inner unicorn, our inner magic. And it also reminds me of Meg Nudo, because Meg has been talking about unicorns lately and the mythical, and that the kind of magic that they help us with, and the eternal, right? And I love that image, and the fact that it's so, the image that quote gives us is that here we have this beautiful gift of being grateful, but we don't give it. And so the action part is actually being thankful, telling somebody thank you and why you appreciate them. That's the action behind it. And the feeling for it is gratitude. So how can we do that? How can we do that and put that into our lives in a real way? Any ideas out there? April, Rochelle, ladies, Jocelyn, anybody, let me know. Lady Hawk, Connie, give me an idea how we can do this in everyday life. We have a lot of people who follow our shows who are single moms. How do they fit this into their busy lifestyle? There's a thing about journaling, which I love. But how many people sit down and journal these days, really? I don't know. So, I gave you an idea of what I do. Mine is verbal. It doesn't even matter where I am. The nice part would be that I would be in my meditation room and I'd have, meditative music on or something soothing, and, sitting in comfortable position. I can't say that I can do that very often these days, to get in there to do that. It's not never, but it's not as much as I used to do. And so I do it where and wherever I am, however I can get it in. And sometimes, like I said, it's over my cup of tea in the morning, and I'm four things I'm grateful for, four things that I can say thank you to someone else about, you know. Yeah, you know, when Lily was getting ready, you know, to wrap things up for us here at Star Nations, we were busy, busy, but I took some time and I created this collage for her and posted it on our fan page, telling her thank you for everything that she'd done for us here at Star Nations. She has left a mark here that will go on for a really long time, and so grateful for her, for everything that she put into Star Nations, everything she did for us and took care of us so well. And so all those pictures, it was my way of saying thank you, more than just the word thank you, which is good. It's good, but you know, to have that feeling behind it, some action behind it, because being a quadruple Sag, there's a lot of fire there. We got to do something with it, right? All right. So thank you, ladies. All right. So Jocelyn, mine is verbal in the morning and at night. Yeah, exactly. Because you can feel it change, right? You can feel it shift. April, post up gratitude memos for the family to write on daily. It's what we're doing. Oh, that's a good idea. Where do you put them, April? Like on the refrigerator, on the bathroom mirror, you know, someplace where everybody's going to see it, I would imagine. Yeah, that's a good one, because it doesn't take long, and yet it can be heartfelt in that moment when you're writing to a family member and saying, thanks for doing that for me. I really appreciate it. You know, yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. And it's easy to do, because we don't want to add one more thing for a very busy person, a parent, to have, you know, to do, right? Oh, they put it on the wall. That is a good idea. Really, really good. You know, in our old house, before we moved up here, down in my basement, I had this, it was a paneling size. It was like a shower panel. And so it was like a big whiteboard. It's basically what it was. And I would have notes on it because I was creating a new business at the time. And I started writing notes to Paul on that, because he would come down there to check on things down in the basement. And that's where my office was. So, you know, kind of have to walk right by it. And so that's where we kind of started putting our stuff. And I didn't realize it until now, April, that we were actually doing that all those years ago, because we've been up here almost 12 years now. 11, be 12 years in June. Yeah, it's the longest place we've ever lived. That's what I get for marrying an Army guy. You know, I'm just going to quick check my notes here in the time, and just want to make sure I hit everything that I wanted to about gratitude. You know, how do we do this for Thanksgiving, right? How do we shift the narrative? How do we move away from, not to forget the history, not to forget the ancestors, both sides, both the European and the Native American? Because, you know, there's a part of me that thinks, how could someone take another life and not have it affect them somehow, right? And so as descendants, we carry those things with us until we heal them. And so, not to forget, there's a lot to be said about forgiveness, right? A lot to be said about forgiveness and healing that. But how do we shift the narrative around Thanksgiving to one of present day, where we are actually giving thanks, that it means something more than something out of history? That's what we should do. That's what we should be building on, I think, right? Let's see. We got a couple more comments here in the chat room. And Connie says, I am very grateful for each experience that's giving me the awareness, and I have a positive mantra on my mirror to read each morning and night. That's great. On your mirror. I used to have one too in our old house. I wrote it in vis-a-vis, or the not the permanent marker stuff, but I actually had it kind of like in an arc. So it would kind of like go over me, that's cool. And Jocelyn is saying, then on the new year, read what you were grateful for the whole year. Oh, that is a really good idea. That's a fabulous idea. And as I can see it sitting around the bonfire or a fireplace, and you're sharing and reading what was written all year. Now, isn't there something about putting comments in a jar? Maybe it is about gratitude. I'm kind of thinking about something about, I read somewhere or saw on Facebook some video that, writing gratitude, statements of gratitude, and putting them in a glass jar and then pulling them out at the end of the year and reading them. Yeah, that's a really, really good idea. I like that. And when I was thinking about this I was thinking about the show and what is the real intention for the show? What are we really trying to do here? And this is what my intention is to help shift the narrative into a more positive narrative, to really look at what we do on Thanksgiving Day here in the United States. How do we really use that? And how could we do it collectively? Collectively. Because can you imagine the kind of energy behind that? Especially here at Star Nations. With you guys doing this, it would be a huge energy field. On Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia. I didn't know you were out there. Hi, Cynthia. Thanks you for joining with us. She says, yes, I read that too about the jar. I know. I think it's a really great idea. What I'm trying to do is hook it up to Thanksgiving and what we do or intend for this national holiday, that what most people look at is just a couple of days off, a long weekend, right? A long weekend. I wanted to show you this one last picture. I think it's the last one. I always say that and show you another one, don't I? All right. This one is from the magazine, the November issue of Star Nations magazine. This is my editorial. And the title of it was Native American Heritage Month. And I wrote about the dichotomy between, it's a good thing, it's like that sweet sour thing I was telling you about. But this picture, I'm not sure if many of you have driven out west of the Mississippi in South Dakota. And this is the statue, the sculpture, metal sculpture that's called Destiny. And I've never used this particular picture that I took of her. And I thought it went really well with my editorial, because it's this Native American woman, this Lakota woman, standing on this hill, and then the Missouri River, the 12,000-year-old river that we're trying to protect. And she's standing to her back is the Missouri. And so I really love that picture. I really do. We were driving back from South Dakota. That was last October. Yep. All right. So I'm just going to go through one more time and make sure I hit everything I wanted to share with you guys. Yeah. There we go. I just want to remind you guys about the special issue of Star Nations magazine. The digital version of this particular magazine this issue is free. So if you have an iPhone or a smartphone of any kind or a tablet, you can go to either iTunes store or the Google Play Store and download the app. If you don't have it, the app is free. And this particular issue of the magazine digitally is free. If you go to MagCloud, I'll put that up on the screen. It's our partners at MagCloud. They are the ones that do the PDF and web viewer versions of the magazine. And you can download that free from MagCloud. You'll have to get their app, which is also free, but so you can have that on your digital mobile device. And it is for print as well, print on demand from MagCloud. But with the print on demand, it's not free. You're just paying for the printing and the shipping for the magazine. So, yeah, and I'm showing that to you because, we're grateful. We have all kinds of gratitude. We're very thankful to Grandmother Earth, Mother Earth, for all that she does for us. And the magazine itself is a Wopula, is a thank you, a catchy miigwech from Star Nations magazine, from Dana and I to you. And so that is something I wanted to remind you about. Yeah. Hi, Lily. Is Lily out there? I can't tell unless I go to my phone exactly who is out there in the chat room, unless you say something that you come up on the chat for Be Live. And so Lily might just be listening, So if you're out there, Lily, thank you. I mentioned you a couple of times tonight, just as an example of how I'm being thankful and very appreciative to somebody who's done so much for us. And so, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, right? Do you remember that one? We may as well go to the top of the hour. It's 10:02. I'm 20 minutes past my time. That's all right. That's one of the things that's nice about not having a show after me, because that way I can go over and I'm not going to, step on anybody's time frame there. So I'm just going to look through my notes one more time. One of the things they said about being grateful, which I thought was really kind of cool, is that when you are in that positive field of gratitude, that feeling of gratitude, that it actually increases your dopamine, and that's the feel good chemical that we produce for ourselves. And so whenever we do our gratitude list and we feel that shift into a more happier frame of mind, or feeling better anyway, is that we're actually creating more dopamine, the feel good stuff. And so if nothing else, that is a big positive to have for gratitude. Yeah. So, one time, I'll share this with you. When Paul watches the replay, he's gonna go, oh my God, you didn't actually tell them that. How sometimes in our jobs, in our 9-to-5s, sometimes they're not very easy. Sometimes our coworkers can be kind of hard to deal with, and you're kind of dreading having to go in. I know people who literally cry on their way to work, and cry because they have to go there. And, that can't be good for your soul. It can't be good for your life, right? Yeah. Thank you, Connie. Connie sends blessings to all of us. I'll put it up there. So anyway, Paul was having some issues at one of his old jobs, right? One of his old jobs. Not his current one, but his old one. And he'd come home and he'd be kind of grumpy about the whole thing, and I'd listen to him, because sometimes you just need to vent a little bit. But when venting goes on for more than 45 minutes, something's not right here. And so I started asking him, what he's grateful for. And it took him a while to come up with a little bit of a list, as we were standing in the kitchen talking about it. And my suggestion to him was to use the drive-in, because it was about a 10-minute drive, not very far. But the drive-in to work and the drive home is to spend that time frame in the car and saying out loud, because he's the only one in the car, what he's grateful for. You know, you're going to start off with the obvious, of course. And then you really start feeling that shift in the energy and the shift that you're feeling. And when you start talking about the other things that you're grateful for, they're heartfelt. They're heartfelt. And he did that for like, I don't know, 6 weeks or so. He came to me one afternoon after work, and he said, you know, that thing that I do every day with the gratitude list? He said, that has really helped a lot. In fact, he shared it with 2 other people at his old job. And he said that he could tell the difference in them, and they said they could tell the difference in him. And it really helped some of the team members at work. And that's only because Paul was just, he was trying to mind his own vibration, his own business, right? And so just doing that, just that one little thing, it helped to help a couple other people and help shift the energy field at work to something a little bit more positive, so that it was easier to get through the day, you know? Yeah. Rhonda, thank you, Rhonda. She's saying, I do this. And it's helpful, isn't it? It is. And like I said, you know, when we need it the most is when we forget that we need to do it. And so I am grateful. I am very thankful for Paul. And I've told him this, thankful to him for the last almost 2.5 years. And in those really very low times, that he would sit and hold my hand and he'd say, what are you thankful for? As I'm boo-hooing, you know, I'm having one of those ugly cries. What are you thankful for? Now's not a good time to ask me that. You know, and he says, no, you told me that this is the perfect time to ask you. This is when we need to do it. What are you grateful for? And so, you know, and that really did help. It really did a lot. It was one among many things, but it helped me to remember what was really here, what is really here, and what is really that brings that feeling of gratitude. Yeah. So as you can tell, I'm in a much better frame of mind. I can actually laugh about some things, not them all. I'm not through it completely. We did that show with Julie Hedges the other night about the Saturn return. And so things are looking up, things are feeling better, but I have to get through December 21st and the 22nd in the new energy field. And so waiting for that and being, you know, I'll even go as far to say that I am grateful for Saturn. I learned a ton of things. I also learned that everything that I thought was due north, I had to literally set aside and say, no, it's not. And I had to find my true north. You know, do you know what I mean by that when I say to find your true north? Yeah. I know some of you do. Some of you are in it. Some of you are just starting it, and it can be hard. It can be hard. It can be a challenge. But if you can remember to do your gratitude list, it is helpful. It is very, very helpful. And with that, I am so very grateful for Star Nations. Really, I am. It was another thing that pulled me through some really challenging moments, challenging days, knowing that you guys are out there and that the magazine does make a difference in some people's lives, that the radio shows do make a difference in a lot of people's lives. And that what we do here to help to be of an assistance to our community, to be that bridge between the ancient and the modern, right? Spiritual information. I'm so grateful for that. I really am. And I'm grateful for you. Really, I am. I love you guys. And I love being able to say my peeps in the radio network closed groups, because you are my peeps. So with that, Cynthia, yes, that is so true. There are no shortcuts to anywhere worth going. That is so true. Because just when you think it's a shortcut, it tends to be the long way around in doing that kind of Saturn return work. There are no shortcuts. None. If somebody tells you there is, tell them prove it. Because I'm here to tell you that if there isn't. All right. So with that, next week for Star Nation's Communications from Home, you guys are going to like this. We're going to be on at a very special time. We're going to be on in the afternoon. I believe it's 2 p.m. Central Time. Why? Because I have Star to Stone co-hosts as my guests, Tracy Civic and Mervyn Kelly. And Mervyn is from London. And so in order to have him on live with us, I had to adjust the time. And so look for us, join us next Tuesday in the afternoon for my guests, Star to Stone, Tracy Civic, and Mervyn Kelly. And we're going to talk all about their show, their new show, and their love of the stars and the stones. So with that, you guys have a really, really joyful, grateful Thanksgiving Day. All right. And we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody. Bama Mina, until we meet again.